if correct me if I'm wrong, I'm on your bio, right? Just my notes. So you started your first coaching job was at UConn, correct?
Right.
All right. So now you're at UConn for 7 seasons. All right.
Hmm.
Then you transition down to South Florida at Miami.
Right.
How did what was the talent gap like when you went from UConn? Was UConn Big East back then? What was that?
No,
What was UConn back then?
no.
What were they?
We were still what was called 1AA or FCS
Okay.
today. Okay, so
Okay.
it was the level below, and or yeah, yeah, it's not quite Division II, but just a level below. Um, but yeah, I mean the difference was obviously the speed, right? I mean,
Right.
I got there and hell, I couldn't keep up in practice at the beginning. I mean, I'm just talking about dudes going from one drill to the next, man. I mean, we got out of inside drill and the horn blew and those guys were already over there at team. I was like, I had to turn around and run and try to catch up and all this other stuff. So it was an interesting transition. I think um, making a jump like that uh, didn't really happen all that much. And here's the reality. The reality was it probably could have been a one and done. And the reason why I say that is because the year before they had gone 5-6, and I don't know if Butch was on the hot seat or whatever you want to call it, and uh, probably got the job because a lot of guys didn't want it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I didn't care. I came home. I came home and I told Miss Jackie about it, and she was like, "Yeah, okay, go ahead, check it out, see what it is, blah blah blah." And then when it started to actually, start to move and come to fruition, she's like, "Yo, so you're gonna take us? You want to take us to Miami?" And at the time, the show Cops was out, and guess where
Okay.
Cops would film most of the
In
time?
Miami.
In
Yep.
Dade
In Miami. Oh yeah. In Dade. Oh yeah. I remember. Oh
County.
yeah. Oh
So she
yeah.
was like, "Wait a minute."
Opalaka was all on there.
Oh, what? She was like, wait a
Yep.
minute, you gonna take us to to Miami? I said, well, no. If you don't want to go, that's cool. You can stay, but I'm going. I got to take this job because it's still Miami. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Right.
care what's going on with it or whatever it was, because again, there was a little bit of a slide, and then there was also there were some sanctions and things like that. So scholarship wise, we were down. Had to be real creative with scholarships and some of those types of things. And Bush did an outstanding job, obviously, of recruiting guys like the Santana Mosses of the world. Santana came on
Hmm.
a track scholarship. Ed
Yep.
Reed was we beat Tulane to get Ed Reed. You know what I'm saying, from a recruiting standpoint. And I can
Yep.
kind of go on and on with guys. Sean Taylor was right down the street at Gulliver, and he played like every freaking position in high school. And he decided to come. He was right down the road, and just uh, Dan Morgan, who I coached, he ended up winning the Buckus and the Bednarik and the Bronco. He was the first guy to win all three of them. They recruited him. He's a white running back out of Taravella High School. It's like, who does that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can
Right.
tell you 1,000 stories of the guys and where they came from, but the thing that um, set us apart and set them apart was their work ethic. And
Okay.
nobody kind of gave them credit for that. Listen, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. Hey, these dudes work harder than anybody you've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of that had to do with, um, the reputation and the history of being at that place and wanting to uphold that. And those were the kind of guys that we had, and it was a fun situation to be around. And obviously, when you're in the middle of it, you really kind of don't, understand, kind of get what you're doing and what's happening with it and all that kind of stuff. But it just became sort of normal for us to go out and beat the dog out of folks. It was just kind of what we did. You know what I'm saying? Um, there's no doubt in my mind that we won one national championship, and we should have probably been three. We should have been three times. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
the year before they put Florida State in, and we beat them. You know what I'm saying? And the BCS computer or whatever it was like 135 to 134 or something stupid like that. And so we should have been in against Oklahoma that year. And and that would have been we would. I'm not going to say what I want to say, but it would have been good for us. But anyway, and then we came
Right.
back. We went, did what we did against Nebraska, and then obviously the whole, um, you know,
Ohio State.
yeah, the Ohio State flag game and all
Yep.
that mess. So
Yep.
yeah, and between the flag and then between that and getting Willis went down
Yep.
because we came out in the second half, dog, and it was like the first half we were kind of like, we were sleepwalking a little bit. We came out in the second half and the offense was rolling, man. They were pounding, man. It was nuts, and we were feeling like we were supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? It was like things
Yep.
going the way it was supposed to go, and then he went down, and things kind of went sour from there. And then when the flag thing happened, it kind of took a lot of the air out of us. I don't want to make any excuses. They're a good team, whatever, but that kind of took a little bit of air out of us, and we weren't able to recover. But yeah, it was a great run, man, and I just to have been a part of that, and probably one of the better teams in college football history, right?
One of the better. What do you mean one of the better? Come on now, coach. You being modest. Regarded
Yeah,
as the best team in college football history.
yeah. I
And
mean,
I kind of want to stay there. Right? So regarded as the best, I can say it. You may not want to put a stamp on it. I'll say it. Regarded as the best team in college history, right? We all love the U. Part 1 and Part 2, ESPN 30 for 30. Everybody's seen it probably 3 or 4 times, right?
mm-hmm.
When we watch the U, we all get, especially us Floridians, we get excited about it because everybody kind of wants to go behind to know how this team got so good. And you kind of said, "Yo, these guys work." What they don't show is, we know the talent, but they don't know how hard they work.
Mm-hmm.
Stay there. Who was the driving force in that locker room? And pause for a second while I give you a chance to think about it. And the reason I ask you this question is, in my opinion, there's only 2 guys in the locker room. All right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who's the most talented, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going to give him the respect because he's the most talented player. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's that guy who's going to kick everybody's ass and make sure that the whole team falls in line. And you're either one of the 2 of those guys, or if that player is the same player, you're in real good shape. But if
Right.
you have those 2 guys in your team, you're going to be able to patrol your own locker room and have a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I go back to you. Who was that dude that was going to kick everybody's ass in the locker room? They were going to listen regardless.
Well, I think I don't know. I think we had a little bit more than 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the absolute and obvious ringleader was Ed. Okay. Now Vince was kind of like, Wolfwick. He didn't take nothing from nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he was a guy that, yeah. He would kind of he'd be housing dudes and that. So, but believe it or not, Kenny Dorsey was kind of was a guy that had the locker room's ear as well. I mean, and because and the thing about him is he wasn't like a Heisman Trophy candidate, but he knew how to move the ball. He knew how to get the ball to the playmakers. He knew how to run the team. Whatever, when he spoke, folks listened. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
It wasn't hard to figure out. So I think between those 2 guys, they were kind of the guys that kind of spearheaded it. And at every position, right? At every position, there was a guy that could speak up if need be. Whether it was John Vilma, whether it was Dan Morgan, whether it was DJ wasn't much of a he didn't get into that. He just wanted to play or whatever it is. Up front, even guys like Bryant McKinney. You know what I mean? He would talk shit and back it up. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
we played against some really good people, and he'd shut them down. If they had an edge rusher, he'd shut them down. We played against Freeney up at Syracuse, and that
Yep.
was, yeah. So think, that kind of thing. That's the stuff that was going on. And so the secondary was like that. On the other side, you had Santana Moss, who was a dog. He wasn't just a receiver. I mean, he was tough as he's tough as nails, man. And guys like Andre Johnson and that, and then there were a ton of kind of role players. You know what I mean? Because the crazy thing was, we had 22 first round draft choices in 4 years. Okay.
So
And
crazy.
it was nuts because we were we were averaging like four a year, and then after those four guys or five, one year we had six, one year we had five, and then the other year we had four, whatever it was. But and then we didn't have very many after that. They were the first
Right.
rounders. It was crazy. But we had a couple of guys that ended up going in the later rounds and things like that. But it had gotten to that point, and like being in what I'm in right now, we wouldn't have gotten any of that done because half the guys would have been gone. They would have
Right.
left. You know what I mean? If that time were now, they would have left because they would have said, "Well, I ain't playing." But see, that's the thing about football and in its purest form and in the form that I see it in is that you had Edgerrin James in the back, just in the backfield. You had Edgerrin James, Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, and Willis McGahee. These guys are all back to back. So think about that for a hot second. And how long would that last in today's climate? It wouldn't last. You know what I'm saying? We had Jeremy Shockey, and then the dude that's
Uh,
on Greg Olson,
yep.
and then
What's the name, son?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So those three guys, yeah, and those three guys right there, and then you got Ed Reed, and you got Sean Taylor backing him up.
right.
What are we talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then he won all those awards, and then John backed him up. John backed him up as a freshman, and then John ends up being a first round draft. I mean, come on, man. And then up front, Vince and all those guys, and I can't even name William Joseph, and I'm trying to think of some of the other names, but you can kind of go on, and it's crazy. Again, I could count on one hand the quote 5-star guys.
Mm-hmm.
I can count on one hand the 5-star guys. So it ain't like we went out and bought up. And I see guys out on the road or whatever it is, and they be talking all that stuff about, well, you guys don't recruit, you just select. Well, no. Yeah, we select the right dudes. We selected the
Right.
right guys. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like we went out and any and all the 5-star guys we were recruiting because they didn't necessarily fit what we were doing. If a guy didn't fit what we were doing, we weren't taking him. I don't care how many stars he got. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And whether he would be able to fit in the locker room. I'll tell you this, and I don't know if he'll hear this podcast, but DJ, the best thing DJ ever did was come to Miami because, and you can see it now. He's always got Miami stuff on his company or whatever it is. And the thing about it was, he was the number one. He was the highest rated recruit that we had probably ever got. He was the number one guy in America. And but the thing about Miami at that time was they ain't nobody care about that. You know what I'm saying? Get in here, put your hand on the ground, let's go to work. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you want to be a guy? Put your hand on the ground and let's go to work. It's the best thing that could have ever happened to him, I think, as a football player, because all that fluff and all that stuff was taken away. All right, if you're gonna be a guy, you're gonna be a guy with us. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna put it in like we put it in, and that's what's gonna happen. You ain't gonna just come in here and just line up and just gonna because you was good at what's the name at De La Salle or whatever it is. Nah, that ain't happening. I tell my players right now a story. I came in the weight room. It was during the summer, and I can't remember whether it was their first year or second. I think it might have been their second year or whatever it was. And I tell my guys this story all the time, and he'll probably remember this too if he sees this. But I walk in, and they're coming off the field now. Okay, and so I go to Swayze. Andrew Swayze was our strength coach. I go to Swayze and hey man, how'd it go? Blah blah blah. And I turn around and I look over there and I see DJ, and he's leaning over like the sink, right? And it looks like he's crying, and he kind of was crying. I don't know. I think that's what he was doing. But I said, Swayze, what the heck? What's going on? He said, Coach. He gave it up today.
Mm.
He finally gave it up. And what he meant was he took himself someplace he ain't never been. Because he had always been able to go through because he was the best athlete. And this time he pushed himself and took himself someplace that he probably didn't think he could get to. You know what I'm saying? And so right at that point, as soon as he said that about that dude, I was like, yo, we're good. We're good. If we can get him to cross over, and this dude, like he's Mr. Everybody, Mr. Everything, or whatever it is, That just told me, listen, this dude right here, he's all the way in too, so we're good. We ain't got to worry about nothing. So, um, so yeah,
It's
man.
funny you say that about DJ.
Uh,
Funny you said it about DJ. I got a quick DJ story.
go ahead.
So I played in the first Florida versus California All-Star game. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And that first one was out in Cali.
Okay.
So I think it was the first night we got to Cali, both teams set together. We're in the same kind of, I guess, conference room eating dinner. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And we had some dudes on that team. Abram Elam. We had, oh gosh. What was the big linebacker out of Kissimmee, Osceola? Oh man, his son was a pretty good quarterback. We had some dudes in that team, so we go out to Cali, and at this time, DJ Williams the number one recruit in the nation. And
Right.
remember, we had no internet back in 2009. Internet was just kind of popped up, but you weren't really on the internet. Everything is in magazine form. So
Right.
in that time, we always had the magazines in our hands, and we're
Mm-hmm.
checking who the best recruits was that whole
USA
night.
Today. USA Today.
Absolutely.
They give you
Right.
the whole. Yeah.
Yep.
He was the guy when you opened it up. It was a big ass
In the
picture of him.
middle. Correct. So and DJ, DJ was put together. So we get to Florida, cocky Florida cats like we are. We're in the dinner, and they're giving the whole spiel about the All-Star game, and they're welcoming us. And one of the Florida cats stood up. No, one of the administrators was like, all right, any other questions? One of the Florida cats stood up, was like, yo, who's DJ Williams? You just got to put eyes on him, right? So DJ stands up,
Uh-huh.
and we're all like, oh. He said, I'm DJ Williams. So we're all like, who
Uh-huh.
put you together?
Mess around and find out, right?
Dude, because he's rocked up, and a lot of folks know DJ played running back also. So DJ was the number one athlete in the nation, and he played running back. He had a few good runs in the All Star game, but it always sticks out to me when he stood up how he was a grown man at 17, 18 years old,
Mhm.
right? So now he gets down to Miami. Now you're telling this story, it all makes sense. Like once he clocked in, once he kind of knew that he was just he's a normal guy like everybody else, and he clocked in. He, like you said, he gave it up. Boom. That's when you got the great player out of him.
Yeah.
That's when you
Yeah.
got a great player out of him.
Because the first year he wasn't, and I don't want to make this a whole DJ podcast, but the first year he didn't know how to play linebacker. I mean, he couldn't,
Mm,
because all he did in Cali was just run around and tackle. And so he
right.
had a bad shoulder, and we had to play him at running back and all this other kind of stuff. That's why if you would ask the question, who should have been the backup to Danny, it should have been him, but it ended up being John, because John was he was one of the smartest guys I've ever been around.
Mm-hmm.
Understood everything. I mean, that's why he was able to play at 6 foot and 225 pounds and be a force, because he knew what was going on and what was going to happen almost beforehand. So he had a little bit of jump. What he lacked in the speed department or whatever it was, he made up for with that. And so he knew what was going on and what was happening with it. So, I mean, just all those guys, man. I mean, it was so much fun just to. And at the end of the day, I mean, we just had to get him on the bus
Right.
or the plane. We just had to get him on the bus or the plane, man. And I think we had one scare, which was Boston College, and that was the one where Ed, didn't feel
Ed
like
had,
he was
yep.
playing,
Yep.
but that was another. And I tell I'm with the D line, and I tell them, all the drills and things that we do. And, we used to, our D-line coach at the time, Coach Mark, would teach those guys if they're getting cut, hands down and then hands up. Well, that's exactly what our guy did. And that's why when the ball ricocheted, hands down, hands up, turn to get out and stack. Well, he did exactly that. And as soon as he turned to get out and stack, the ball hit him in the chest. You know what I'm saying? So just doing all the
Mm-hmm.
things that you're coached to do on a day in and day out basis and throughout the ball game, because you don't know when it's going to, you know what I'm saying? You don't start doing freelance and doing some crazy stuff, because this was right at the end. Dog, they were getting ready to go down. It was going to be over. Game was
Yep.
over. I don't even know why they threw the ball. They shouldn't have thrown the
Yep.
ball. They could have gone in. I think they might have been able to just kick, because we couldn't stop it. We weren't stopping it. It just wasn't happening. So
The running back would have been.
I don't
Oh
know
my
who he was,
gosh.
but they were they and more importantly, they were stopping us on defense because they were playing an 8-man front, and I mean, just loaded up on the run, man. And we were staying in our eye back stuff, and we came out in the second half in 11 personnel and spread them out, and that's what allowed us to kind of get a couple touchdowns or whatever it was, and put ourselves in a position to win. But yeah, that was a scare, man, and it was like, man, this thing might be getting ready to come to an end right now. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
And some of the
oh, got it. William Green.
yeah, yeah,
It was Willie Green, bro, because
yeah,
he torched us too.
yeah.
He torched us too. Willie Green killed us, bro.
I don't
We were
know.
playing at Boston
I don't know
College. He got busy.
Yeah, I don't know how many yards he had, but it was
He went for
nice.
like 200 on us.
Yeah, because and Mike Rumph was the guy that he was the corner. Rumph was the corner. I think he's coaching at Miami now, but he was the corner that kind of got his hand on the ball or whatever it is. So that was as big a play, and all the time that I've been there, for us to keep moving and um, you know get done what we got done. So that was good stuff.